Tu taua mai I runga, tu taua mai I raro, tu taua mai I roto, tu taua mai I waho. Kia tau ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora, mō te kingitanga, mō te ao katoa, haumi e hui e, tā iki e. Hei paku whakamārama, the karakia was a blessing. It was non-religious, specific, and so take it as you will. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora.
As I did a Dale. Could you give us the English translation of
Yeah,
that?
I can.
Just so
I
that
can.
It means more to us. Is that?
Absolutely. Tu taua mai I runga, tu taua mai I raro, tu taua mai I roto, tu taua mai I waho. I'm acknowledging and blessing all those things that are above us, below us, inside of us and outside of us. I've acknowledged and blessed our king, and you can bless whatever king you like, the England or Māori. And lastly, I then acknowledged self. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora. Thank you very much. So we've got the Service Delivery Committee meeting today, and we've got our apologies first, and we have them from Mayor Susan O'Regan for personal reasons. I think everyone else is here, and who's happy to move that? Andrew's going to move, and a seconder. Thank you, Bruce. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. And now disclosure of members' interests. Any disclosures? No, great. And then any late items? Any late items? No, no late items. Great. So could we confirm the order of the meeting? I have a mover and a second for that. Lou, thank you, and Dale Marie. Thank you. Please, all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. And now the next item is confirming our open minutes. So they start from page 8, but they've been pre-circulated. I don't think there's any issues that I've been informed of. So do I have a mover and a seconder there to correct record? Thank you. Roger, and a seconder. Thank you, Andrew. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. And now our first item of business is the Waipa Community Facilities Trust end of year report. So I'd like to welcome Brad Ward. You're going to introduce our guests, Shane Walsh and Matt Horn. Welcome, gentlemen. Nice to see you here. Over to you, Brad.
Nā mihi o te ata, kia koutou katoa, te he Māori ora. Tēnā koe hena rangi, nai mai haere mai ki te Service Delivery Committee. This morning I'd like to just introduce you to two gentlemen who will probably be very familiar to all. Shane Walsh, Chair of Waipa Community Facilities Trust, and Matt Horn, the CEO of the Trust as well, or of the Go Waipa operation. So without further ado, I'll hand over to the two lads to take you through their report.
Good morning. So I'm here to...
just a moment, we need you to press the green button.
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, good morning. We're very happy to be here and to report on what was a really good year. So Matt will do the report. I'm here to support Matt and answer any questions on governance or strategy.
Kia ora, everyone. We're reporting on our last financial year, 1 July to 30th September 2023, on how well the trust has gone, and we're going to talk about the non-financial report and our audited financial numbers as well. So total visits, a huge increase due to non-COVID. I think it was the first year after COVID where we haven't been restricted. We did have the first 3 months of the year under to about midway through September under some restrictions, but it didn't really affect us as much. It did have some effect on probably schools and them adjusting, coming back from COVID and what they were going to do outside of the classroom and attendance and things like that. But you can see a big significant jump. We're almost 360,000 people through both facilities together. And it was a huge increase over the last, 3 years. If you look at 2020, 2019, 2020, that was the Te Awamutu Event Centre only. And that's when COVID also hit in March, April. So those ones. I'm going to talk about the Event Centre. by itself. 212 people, 212,000 people through. Once again, it's a big step up from the 136. So you can really see the impact that COVID had on us and affected all services, not only the pools, but the stadium, the gym, and things like that. So 75,000 visitor increase, or 55% over last year. Pools only, this is the Te Awamutu Event Centre, Livingstone Aquatics only, 130,000 people through. So probably the best gauge would be year 2020-21. You can see the drop there. Some of that will be with Perry Aquatic Centre coming on board. We would have that. So the next couple of years would be a good indicator how we're going and what programs we're putting in to help increase and boost those numbers back up. But yeah, another 38,000 increase over the previous year. Stadium, that was probably one of the most affected areas, especially with the physical distancing and what they could do and things like that. We couldn't play any sports and very hard to maintain hygiene and things like that. So last year, or the year prior to last, was very poor with 8,000 right through the year. We were closed for a number of those months, and we had 30,000, which was a little bit disappointing, even though it's higher than the previous years. If anyone knows, we had an incident for the first term of this calendar year, school year. We had the floor maintained in the stadium, and one of the products failed. The blessing out of that was because the product failed, they actually sanded back all the wood, and we were just doing the top surface. They sanded it right back to bare wood, and we got new courts and new thing under insurance. So, you know, win-win. So we don't have to do that. But we lost the term of local sports and events because of that. Getting in, no one wanted to do half a term of pretty hard for the organisers to use. So yeah, we had 22,000 more. We're hopefully going to be quite a bit higher than that this year. So hopefully this time next year we'll be presenting with even better numbers for the stadium. Club Waipa. So for anyone that's new and doesn't know Club Waipa is our gym services, wet and dry. So they do obviously the physical gym side, but they also do group fitness classes, both dry and wet, so aqua jogging. And that also includes some classes over in the Perry Aquatic Centre, which is an aquatic facility over only. So we had 57,000 people through. Once again, you can see the asterisks of the COVID. So it's about 15,000. So everybody's starting to come back to some sort of normality on the visit. So we're quite happy with that. Membership was over 900, which is quite good with a densely populated fitness gym in TA. I think there's about 7 gyms if you count CrossFit in TA. So yeah, it's pretty saturated market. Getting on to Perry Aquatic Centre, which is kind of nice to know, because ever since the Perry Aquatic Centre opened, we were straight into COVID. So we've always been restricted besides the current last year. So a big step up, 147,000, almost 150,000 people through. And once again, it's aquatics based only. So it's doing pretty well for just pools. And if we have a bumper summer, hopefully we do really well. The swim school does really well. If we have a lot of drownings, the swim schools seem to do quite well. So generally summer, it's water. Yeah, very sad. The water restrictions and drowning seem to be a big issue over the summer. So it's having that capacity to that, and being a landlocked area, you know, having safe waterways to swim in is pretty limited. So we hope that the centres that we provide will be well used.
Just a moment, Matt. I've got a question from Philip Coles. Yeah.
Yep, thank you, Madam. Yeah, I was going to say, do you want
Yeah.
Well, you happy to take
just a quick one? What's the swimming lessons wise? What's the numbers weekly, monthly?
Yep, so we're averaging close to 900 on both sides in our Learn to Swim program. Yes, a week. Yep. And so if we have 900 for the term, that means 900 will go through each week on side. So Cambridge is just slowly starting to pip TA, and that's because we had to establish and then slowly build itself up. And I think there's a good challenge on the Cambridge side because we have other Learn to Swim programs already established, from, you know, quite well established and great programs.
That's right.
But,
St Peters was doing about 1,000 a week before, and that's with Roger, who's now running.
Hours, yeah. Yeah, and so our water safety and boat safety programs are hopefully trying to get the schools back into, and a lot of them are adjusting back into their normality and what they want to do. So trying to get meetings with schools to see if they want to do these programs is one of our priorities this year.
And Matt, I've got a question from Liz.
And I think you might have just answered it, but it may be a question for Shane. So just on those schools, I'm really keen to understand what schools are using the pools. So this is Te Awamutu and Cambridge, and which schools are still going out of district to utilise other pools. Because, you know, we have seen a lot of that in the past, where we've still got MyPass schools heading into Hamilton. And I just was keen to perhaps in the future to see, what the strategy is around that, and just making sure that our local schools are using our local facilities, except for those that have their own pool. Of course, there's a couple of schools like that.
Well, first, Matt, if you just answer the question in terms of the schools that are using it, and then I'll answer the question in terms of the strategy.
Yeah, through Madam Chair. Well, I can't comment on who's going away because I don't know. That would be something that they would be doing with outside providers. We did have, unfortunately, some misinformation about pricing, which was incorrect. They said that they were going to Morrinsville and saying that we were charging $5,000 for a swim meet or an event at the school. So hopefully we've nullified that, and we went through the eyesight in Cambridge. They brought the request through somebody else, and we provided that information to them. Generally, the schools are our regular users like St. Pat's, the intermediates. Sometimes we actually go to some of the schools that have pools and deliver on site there. Sorry, I'm not as prepared. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. And a couple of the smaller schools as well. I can provide that information later on. Roger's my man that I would go and see for that because they actually provide it. Yeah.
So in terms of our strategy, we're actually advertising right now and interviewing someone to focus on outreaching to schools and to the community and trying to create a little bit more events in the event centre. I'm not too hopefully maybe in a month, 2 months' time, we'll have someone who will be 100% focused on that area to try to encourage growth in that particular area. So that's a real focus for us.
Sorry, so that's swimming.
Swimming.
Into the events.
Yeah, it's swimming, but it's also what other events that we could have. So, for example, we know internationally pickleball is a new sport that people love, and it's a great sport because you can play it at as you get a little bit older. And so we're looking at, do we set up a pickleball competition and sort of get that going? And we believe that that would attract a lot of people, but we need someone to focus on that. And so this person will be outreaching to schools, putting programs together like pickleball, the basketball, badminton, all those sorts of things, and events that we can potentially have.
Yeah, look, that sounds fantastic actually, because when I looked at the events that you're currently delivering in the stadium, but they're by largely ones that have been there before. It didn't look like there was any new business coming through.
Absolutely.
I'm really sorry I missed the catch show. I would have loved to. I love that sort of stuff. You know, bringing something really new into a district or an area, I think is great. So the fact you're looking at building that side of the business, I think is brilliant. Thank you.
Okay.
I've got another question now. Hinerangi.
Kia ora. This is just in line with Liz's question, actually. I know cost is a driving decision factor for people. Have you done some kind of cost analysis across other swimming places to make sure that you are comparable, or yeah?
Yeah, there's two parts to that. If we're talking on the swimming side, for normal fees and charges and just general casual entry, we kind of look around the market and also the service and the facilities we are providing. put it this way, I live in Hamilton, and I think our services in the Waipa region are far better than anything Hamilton offers. So I don't apologise that maybe our entry prices are, but for the water safety, boat safety, we generally get funding from Water Safety New Zealand. Our stadium prices are very cheap. I think they're too cheap for what we provide because we've invested quite heavily, say on the floor, new shot clocks, upgrading the facilities and things like that. Because it's not based on the person in the stadium, it's based on courts or a flat rate. And would be a lot cheaper than our competition. But we're kind of a smaller market with Mystery Creek and Claudelands, things like that. And there's a bit tough with some infrastructure to bring some stuff in, hence why we're looking at trying to provide and get our niche in the market and try and fill those spaces where we're required. It is tough when most people are at school or at work to fill the stadium during the day, easy after school and after work, but harder. And in weekends, we really want to have something going on the weekends and trying to have, if it's not sport, some sort of event going. And we're hoping that the new person who does get that role will focus on trying to deliver that.
Yeah, just one more and then I think it'd be good if Matt gets a chance to finish his
No,
presentation.
it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, okay.
Shane, can we have a catch up after this?
Sorry?
We have catch up after this.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Over to you, Matt.
Yeah, so Swim Waipa, you can have a look. We're almost 57,000 people, quite a bit up from the year before and the year before that. One of the things that we did do in the year prior to last year, when we were very and heavily restricted, we were only allowed 100 people at any one time in the facility. We're still trying to prioritise the swimming lessons and get the kids through and to say to the parents, oh, you can pick them up at the end and things like that. That was a big challenge, but it also affected obviously the stadium, even the gym capacities and things like that. And we also had to look at our partners like the cafe and allowing them to still operate and have some people as well. So yeah, total membership at the end of last year was 1,755. We put through 47,000 swimming lessons. And then obviously you can see the Swim for Life or the boat safety, water safety course, about 2,700, which we'd really love to do better in that one. Squads about 5,000, and then our holiday programs 1,500. And if you look at that, that's a step up from the previous year. You can see about 250, 240 people more in our swim school. Swimming lessons were almost 9,000 more. Doubled, almost tripled our boat safety, water safety, and then the squads doubled. So we're slowly getting there. We just got to keep pushing and striving for those. Health and safety. While these numbers may seem reasonably high, a lot of them are first aids and things like that, but we've had 360,000 people through the facility. So if you put that into perspective, and the nature of our business, i.e. people are fun, happy, active, they're not just going and sitting there. Kids just want to be kids and things like that. One of the key things that we did do in there is the trespass. I've talked to Sally and Brad about this. After COVID and things like that, the nature of people and their behaviours has changed quite a bit. And so we struggled a little bit, and I've been in the industry for about 20 years, and you'd normally get maybe 1 or 2 trespasses, sometimes none a year. And just last year we had 11, just with behaviours and abuse and fighting and all sorts of theft and things like that.
Yeah,
So
Marcus,
what is the, like, what has, like, yeah, can you just explain more about what has changed in the behaviours? Like why are you getting more trespassing?
There's a lot of things that come into that. Go off. Oh, sorry. There's a lot of things that go into that. I think, the cost of living, there would be a lot of people that didn't want to be vaccinated, and that split a lot of people. There's a lot of just general people out there don't seem to be as happy. And then when they come in there, I don't know, a lot of aggression, damage, thefts. So those are challenges for the staff. And, our focus is to deliver a good product and watch their safety, not trying to do that. I think we do struggle with some of the support services after that as well, and then the follow-up. They're there to help, but the follow-up and things like that. For example, last week we had a car stolen and it was a cop's car. So when we took the CC and the evidence to the police, they weren't even, we didn't get the vibe. And I'm not trying to blame the police, they got a busy job to follow up with that. And, you know, it was one of these that got their vehicle stolen. You'd think that they'd be quite proactive. So I think their resources are stretched as well, which is pretty tough. So I don't know if that's the same as what the council's found, but we just found the general behaviour of the public seems to have shifted. It's settled down so far this year, but last year seemed to be everybody's been held back and kept at home and restrictions, and then we've been released, and that's what's happened.
Brad, have we noticed like similar things at the libraries, like other public places?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, it's common trend across, I think, all front-facing services at the moment, not just councils and pools, but I think, yeah, general feel of, and I think we've seen that even in the election, right, over the last few weeks, just a bit of a little bit of divisiveness in the community. But yeah, the teams are definitely bearing the brunt of that sometimes.
So if we put this into perspective, besides the trespasses, 91 accidents. So what we call an accident is where we provide first aid for somebody. An incident might be something like you've left your car lights on, the battery's gone flat, or a theft or something like that. Or we have a fight and then you punch me in the nose and I break my nose. That's an incident going to an accident. So we had 91 accidents, 45 incidents, 83 contaminations. So if you divide that, I'll put 17 days there. What I mean by that, if you average out a vomit or a code brown or some blood in the pool, we average it out about 3 hours of that pool being closed. And so if you do that, and we're open for 15 hours a day, which worked out to be about 17 days of interruptions through people of that. And it happens more often than you'll get people, my kids are toilet trained and it's too late, but things like that. Or they'll vomit, have a lot of vomits through, get this down your gut, we're late for swimming lessons. Then they go for a swim, it comes back up. And you just have to follow the protocol. So while we're always trying to get them better, and they were up on last year, we're also up by about 95,000 people. So put it into perspective, they're pretty good. Pool water quality, it's kind of tough because we always exceed the pool water quality. The standard is 85% average of maintaining in the standard. It's a national standard of keeping it in. And so we managed to maintain the water quality about 95% within in that framework. Pool temperatures, once again, trying to keep them in. Anyone here that's a regular swimmer, you probably have your preference. We do get some feedback on, I want the lane to be this temperature for myself, and I want it for myself. So if you're a faster swimmer and quite a good swimmer, they generally like it colder because they're working harder. If you're a bit like me and just like to walk up and down, it can be a bit cold. So you're never going to please everybody, but we try and stay in those standards, and the standards are in the presentation. Feedbacks. So we get a lot of feedback, mainly probably verbal, and so we can't validate that. So when we say feedback and it's presented, it's actual written feedback that we've had to respond to, because we get a ton of feedback where our regulars come in and praise us, but we're on the reverse of that. I'm sure when they're not happy and they tell someone, if I get growled, I'm not really going to tell my boss that I got growled, sort of thing. So these are based on that. So we had 9 compliments, which is disappointing. We'd love to see a lot more of those. Complaints valid, 11. Non-valid are 9. So there's some ridiculous ones why you can't do this, and there's just no answer for them. There's no way. And we have a lot of suggestions. We had about 21 of those. Yeah, if I want a lane to myself, we just can't do that. We're a public facility. Things like that. So capital renewals. So last year we had a big year with some bigger projects, and with funding from council and the trust putting it in. We put some AC units into our electrical room and staff room. The electrical room gets very hot down the plant room, and just to stop it overloading. And then we put one in the staff room, which would be nice for them because it's north facing and gets pretty hot. And if you're ever at the pools, they're very hot environment just on poolside anyway. So to then actually have a break and have some air conditioning for the staff was quite good. The hydro slide refurbishment, we had $85,000 set aside for the new stairwell and some money for some hydro slides, but the stairwells went up over around the 260,000 to redo the stairs in the Townwood Event Centre. These are minus GST numbers as well. Auto Rewind, which is the machine that rolls in the 50-metre cover in the pack. We did lighting replacement. So if anyone's been to the stadium recently, not only have we done the floor, we've done all the lighting above it, and it's all LED now. So it's a lot brighter. And also when we turn or lose power, but mainly when we turn them off, they don't have to take time to cool down and then warm back up to come back on. So we've got instant levels of service back for people, a lot better over the time. We put another shot clock and scoreboard on one of the courts. So we got both courts that can run for the public now, not just the main one. Our main heating and ventilation fresh air fan that brings in all the air packed up, that wasn't a scheduled one. So we use that. And then the main circulating pumps for the 25-metre pool and the hydro slide. And then the office, I don't know if anyone's been to the event centre, we were just on Lino for about 8 or 9 years. So it gets quite cold in the winter and quite warm in the summer. So we put carpet and made it a bit nicer for the staff. And then some gym equipment. We always continue to upgrade the gym and provide better service. And when the Perth Aquatic Centre got built, the Learn to Swim hydrotherapy pool faces most of the sun, and it gets low, especially in the winter months, and can get an eye sunstrike. And so even for the instructors and the people, also the people sitting, so we kind of tinted that and made it a bit easier. New price words, and then there was a vehicle replacement, which is part of our schedule. So total spent was just 407,000. The remaining money will go onto the hydro slide when we get a chance to redo that job. You can see some photos of the new stadium floor and the lighting. And then we had a iwi leaders forum just recently, and that's one of the setups, so you can see what it looks like. They went for about 3 or 4 days. The Prime Minister was supposed to arrive on the last day of it. Unfortunately, it was foggy and he got missed out. So, but it was well run, and they had shops and little things that they were selling.
I've got a question from Philip Coles.
Thank you. How many people can you seat like that?
Like that. That would be depending on their demand, but if we bring the seating all the way out, that holds about 1,000, and then you can probably put another 400 or 500 in. We are restricted by the fire egress, and so we're just in talks with council. And Brad, I just asked him recently if he could find out what that is, because it's not on our BWAF certificate.
So that's 1,000 sitting around tables or just sitting on a grandstand?
Oh, there's probably 300 or 400 people at any one time at that event.
Yeah.
And then they just come and go as they please. But our maximum, if we put the grandstand out, that will hold 800 to 1,000 people. And then you can also put seating right around as well. So our annual customer satisfaction survey. We goes out for 3 weeks, and we had 707 responses. So it's down on last year's responses by about 359, but still quite a good catchment of 707 over that 3 weeks of the users. Our customer satisfaction index rating was 77. 78 is very good, so we're 1 off it, but it went up 1 from last year to good performance, but always room and potential for improvement. And one of the challenges that we are working on and looking at going forward is having, besides our main one, is having regular ones, especially on little events, and then sending out maybe a 2 or 3 question survey to see how they found, so we get better feedback, because once again, it's how the customer feels on the day. And generally, people aren't, and we go down into detail. It's not just based off 1 or 2 questions. We do it on every question. So we want to know what our customer feels. You know, if you go to learn to swim, did the instructor engage the parent and the child? Not just things. So if you do some other surveys, they'll do 2 or 3 top questions and they'll base the overall score. Ours is based on a whole lot. You know, were you greeted at the door, things like that. So we're pretty tough markers on ourselves, and we don't apologise for that, I guess.
Thanks, Matt. I've got a question from Liz.
I was just wondering how you got on, like for events that want to be in the stadium, of course, how you get on with liquor licensing. So you'd need to apply for a special for any alcohol. Is that quite problematic? Is that stopping you? I mean, is it something you might want to consider getting an on license in the future? I don't know. I was just interested.
Yeah, we had looked at it previously, and that's when we had the kind of, we'll host it. Now that we're trying to proactively go and get that, that will probably be something that we will look at. Council's been pretty good to us as long as it's held in contained indoors. Some of the events have been quite easy to get those licenses. I would say if they wanted to sell alcohol, then that might be a challenge for the event. Whereas, for example, we've got Open Country Dairy coming in for their annual Christmas next month, and they obviously provide the alcohol. They don't make them pay. So
You would still need a on
yes,
license.
no, we still have to get it, but we
Yeah.
normally get it for the event.
Yeah, yeah.
More
No,
than us holding it.
it's a real opportunity, I would have thought.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, it's gone up one point or 1% over last year. But you can see the consistency. The big drop, the big improver was actually the gym. We had a challenge the previous year with our Club Waipa. We had some changes of personnel and consistencies there, which obviously, you know, we weren't proud of, but something we strove to do, and they're doing quite well. So we had some stability there, and now our memberships kind of reflects that. So we're hoping that, you know, in the upcoming one, and it goes out in February, you know, to see it still continue to drive and rise there. Now we get into the financial. I apologise in advance. I'm not Merv, and Merv's the numbers guy and what a charismatic guy. So we just about broke even. We were always quite proud operationally to be slightly ahead of council. We always try and get above the 50%. This year, I think we were 49.6 and council was 50.4, and you know, I'm having sleepless nights over that. So it's something that we want to do. But if we look at what we did last year, we had a net surplus based on the budget. We still need councils or the ratepayers funding of 452,000, not counting because we have to include the capital renewal funding that we got. So there's 250 something left over for that project that we're still going to finish with the slide. So that's included in the 452. So realistically, it will be around or thereabouts the same as the previous year, around the 200,000 mark, 230. The one that I really like to look at is probably this one here. And you can see the difference in the numbers. So council funding, we've got 2.7 for both facilities. Oh, it's 50.25. So 0.25 is the difference. And then we made 2.706. If you look at the users, visits per user and the subsidy that the ratepayer does is $7.60. And we did $7.52. So it's roughly costing, if they didn't get subsidised by the ratepayer to use the facility, it's about $15.12 per person to use. So if you're full paying adult of $8, it might be $8.50, I can't remember, I think it's $8. And it normally would cost $15. That's the difference that we're saving them each visit. And that's based on the total rateable units. And that you can see that's gone up. So obviously with the growth across the Waipa, you can see another 500 units at paying rates. So the annual cost to the ratepayer is $227,000. The trust is covering 113 of that, and then 114 of that would be in their rates. So not too bad. And then the equity has risen from 87. So the ratepayer is getting back about 87 on their money. We've made that to 104, and we've got an equity based over there of almost 2.5 million.
Thank you, Matt. That brings you to the end of your presentation.
Happy to take any more questions.
Oh, yeah, and Shane, you wanted to say anything about the strategy and governance or anything?
I think some of the questions have drawn that out. We're very focused on increasing the numbers of people that go through there and make new and interesting things happen there. Just a couple of things is just to update you on the cafe in Cambridge. So it's been, the final numbers have come in and they are very, very scary. And so it's looking close to $900,000. And there's no way we could justify doing a cafe in that way. So we're still committed to ensure that there is a cafe, some sort of cafe in Cambridge, but it's going to be different from what we originally looked at. So we'll continue to work on that. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we can come up with, but we can't justify the dollars spend that we have now. We just wouldn't get a return on that investment. The other thing I just want to, just one other heads up is that we have a service agreement with Waipa District Council, and it's a document that's been around for a long, long time. We feel that it's time to bring it up to date, and given also the Cambridge pools are new. So, you know, the environment's completely different. So we've signalled that to Sally that we would like her team to have a look at that and go through a process of just updating that to make it more fit for purpose.
Oh, thank you for giving us a bit of advance warning about that. I appreciate that, Shane. Now, I'm just seeing whether or not there's any other questions. So I've got Bruce and Mike and then Andrew.
Thank you, Matt and Shane. Matt, just during the holidays with the contamination issues, is there any way you can notify the public of this happening? I had disappointed grandchildren, I don't know which week it was. So that, okay, you go out from the rural area to go 15 k's, oops, closed. So we headed to TA. Is there any way you can use antenna or something that the people know? Is that possible?
We do have some options. Holidays are a bit of a challenge because they just happen when they happen, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So for Learn to Swim, one of the things we did look at, because, for example, if something happens around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we've got swimming lessons, and there'll be 300 or 400 kids coming through that day on the swimming lessons, we've now got a mass text option, because if we do emails and website, even though we update them, people just aren't looking at them. So we have this mass text that goes out and will say pools are closed and things like that. The challenge for us is the trust reflects badly, even though it's not the trust, it's our loss of reputation, even though it's out of our control. So, and also we still have to honour the swimming lessons that people have paid for and pay the staff. So it is a tough challenge, because sometimes the majority of them are accidents, and they are little kids. It's the deliberate ones that are frustrating. And you know, it's very hard.
With antenna, it's so simple. Those that use it, and it's good. It's a notification. And these weren't swimming lessons. These are just, they were actually Auckland grandchildren. I thought, let's show off the pool. Well, okay, they got the Tiamutu experience, but they were disappointed. Say something at Tiamutu hadn't been open. Well,
just on that, Bruce, Sally's got a comment to make about Anteno.
If I can, through the chair. So Anteno is a product that obviously council uses. Go Waipa has their own channels that they utilise. We can have a discussion around that, but sometimes when these things happen, we may not actually have staff in the office as well. So take on board your comment, but it's not an actual product that I think Go Waipa has access to at the moment.
Sorry, can I also add to that? Thank you, Sally. Madam Chair. We also have had look at things like that that would cause our customer to have to sign up to that to be notified. And when we did have some things originally, they were coming back, we're getting too much information because we're putting everything on those channels. And for example, if you're just coming for a swim and it happens to be that time, that's unfortunate. So regular people, we notify through our texting service. The challenge that we got for the casual users that want to be notified, it's very hard. And how do you get it through without them becoming frustrated as well?
Yeah, thanks
It
for
is
that. I
very
can
hard.
see you trying hard to find a balance with it. Now I've got Mike. And then Andrew.
Yeah, thanks to the chair. Cheers, Matt and Shane, for your presentation. Probably a question for Shane, possibly. Just with the trust, are you able to gain additional sponsorship or grants being a trust to help with, say, specific programs like the Learn to Swim or the boat safety and those sorts of things?
Yes, and we do.
Yeah.
And maybe Matt can just give you some examples of that.
Yeah, so last year we got about 30 to 40,000 worth of sponsorship for our water safety, boat safety, and also Plunket Babies. The Catholic Swims League gave us some funding for that. We have got some naming rights sponsorship that we have with Livingstone again for 5 years. I think we're about year three into that. But also Water Safety New Zealand, and that this current year that we're in, their funding's changed and they decide, so some of the regular providers say, might change their mind and go, well, we're going to focus on this and we're going to provide this. And so it's then adjusting and adopting that. It's very hard to get naming rights. We went back to ASB for the stadium, and even though it's still ASB Stadium because nothing's changed, that's actually lapsed and there's nothing's eventuated from that. So, and then we were Trust Waikato, and they've changed how they fund, and they don't do that type of naming rights anymore either. So the events person might be put this on them to help follow up with that sort of.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And I guess, hey, just would, I might have missed it, but it'd be quite good to have a line in here in those accounts, and they're probably in the audited ones, of just that sort of income stream, just to sort of, be good just to see it.
Yeah, I just put it down as government funding.
Oh, is that what it is? All right.
Well, it's not in government, it's just our income plus the government subsidies.
Gotcha.
We've got mainly apprenticeship stuff, and last of the late COVID until they ceased funding that. But we're happy, we can put that in, we break it down even more. I believe I have sent the performance report through to council with our audited accounts that just come through.
Cool.
And we do have our AGM tonight, if anyone wants to attend, at 6 o'clock at the event centre in the meeting room there in the stadium side. But yes, if I haven't, I believe I have. And so we'll actually get our charity submission in on time this year. It'd be quite nice.
So I think Andrew and then Roger.
Yeah, thanks for you, Claire. I just actually wanted to congratulate you, Matt, on not just this year, which is actually pretty spectacular when you consider the challenges that have been faced. I guess you took over from H2O, I think pretty much when I first got on council, and you took over a facility that was in dire need of some more than TLC actually. How you present and what you present is a credit to both you yourself and the trust. Shane, congratulations and thanks for taking on this. It's a significant thing to be involved in. And I'd like you to convey to the rest of the trust, my congratulations on what you've achieved. It's fantastic to see the facilities being maintained and improved. Yes, there's a cost to doing that, but boy, there's a bigger cost in not doing it, in my view. So, well done.
Appreciate those comments, Andrew, and I'll pass that on to the rest of the board at our next meeting.
Thanks. I'm pretty sure the rest of us feel exactly the same way, and thanks, Andrew, for saying those words. Now, Roger.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Good report, and particularly interested to see even though it was a difficult time last year with COVID, the bottom line is still being maintained, and that's obviously as a result of very strong monitoring and management. So that's really good. And I noticed that that's carried forward to an equity, and you don't put the kind of traditional type of balance sheet in there, which I'm a little bit funny like that. I like to see a balance sheet and see how that equity is reflected within the assets of your trust. So if it could be extended to a balance sheet, that would be a really good extension to the report.
Through Madam Chair, if we haven't got the performance report, I will send it through to Brad, and he can circulate that through, and that's got everything in there right down to the detail on that. Got a copy here, and then there's a balance sheet and signed and things like that.
Yeah, I think that Sally's making some motions that that could easily be circulated to the members. Yeah, so thanks for raising that, Roger. So I think that's the end of the questions. And yeah, I just want to say an absolutely beautiful report, Matt and Shane. You know, the work that you're doing is just paying so many dividends, I think, for our community. And it just reflects, I think, the top class management and yeah, the teams that you've got there working on delivering this. So yeah, big thanks from all of us. We really appreciate you coming along and yeah, showcasing what you guys are doing. It's fantastic.
Thank you very much. I just want to leave on one more high note, so a bit of back smacking. There's a review that used to be in Yardstick where they do a 5K radius of your visits. And so we had about 200, before COVID, we had about 250,000 people, 250,000 people through the event centre by itself, which was about 19 visits per head of population. I mean, if you do 5K in TA, you're in rural land.
Yeah.
And so the national average was about 14 visits per head of population. So the community supports the facilities as well, which is really good.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see our community using these facilities. So thank you very much. Great to see you guys. And I've got a recommendation that we receive the report of Brad Ward for the Waipa Community Facilities Trust end-of-year report. So I've got Liz is going to move and Dale Marie is going to second. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Carry on your good work. Sorry that we've gone a little bit over time. Our next report is the request for new road names. So we've got James Brott here, would like to come forward, and I see Michael's here too. Yes, thank you. So we'll try and move through these items a little bit more quickly. I just thought it was important to allow extra time for all those wonderful questions. I can see that you're really engaged. All right, welcome, James. If you'd like to take it away, that'd be great. Thank you.
Morning. Thanks, Madam Chair. Councillors. I take the report as being read. Verbally, I'd like to update on LINZ, the Parongia subdivision. Those names have all been approved by LINZ, and the retirement village in Cambridge, those ones are still pending review from LINZ, but I anticipate to go through. For both subdivisions, the correct manawa whenua have been consulted this time, and I'm confident that that process has been fully gone through. Regarding the previous report, Ngātai Apakura, we're still pending comments on whether they are relevant or not. So that's being deferred to the next meeting. Does anyone have any questions for this report?
Thank you. Right. Looks like no questions. So we do have a mover and a seconder to receive it, so that we've got Phil and Marcus. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then the next item is the implementation of the land transport rule, setting of speed limits. Eric and Brian, welcome, gentlemen. Great to see you here. This is a big piece of work. I'll hand it over to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chairs and members of the committee. If I could take the report as read, and also Brian's going to help me out just in case there's any questions relating to the recent elections and any interface with the regional council. So yeah, any queries? Thank you.
Yes, Lou.
Yeah, I'd like to speak very much in favour of this. I think it's got some very, very positive parts to it. I think having a regional directive rather than having a local directive, it just makes sense that we have some consistency with setting speed limits over the whole area. And I think that doing it as individual councils is just replicating what's already being done in some others. So I would support the motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Lou. I did have a, oh, sorry, Roger, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. Just one of the things that I'm hearing and I'm actually seeing is the challenge that we've got whereby we've got different speed limits along a single stretch of road that, you know, you've got to go up and then back up again and down again. And it's just becoming a little bit difficult. And I think that's a safety factor as well, you know, because the people are not always aware of that variation in speed limit. And I'm just hoping that more consistency like this that'll be generated from this kind of move would hopefully address some of those inconsistencies. And I mean, a particular road of note is Bryce Street going into Duke Street, you know, where we've got those variable speed limits.
Thank you, Roger. Yeah, so I guess we've learnt from the changes we made several years ago. There's other examples like that as well. And what we're hoping, look, if you do the safety assessment, that's where you get to. But if you smooth out those blips in the assessment, you can get to probably a more easily understood system. And we're kind of hoping that if we work closely with the region and Waikato District, Hamilton City, that a more standardised approach is developed.
Thank you. Philip?
Yeah, and probably like what Roger just said, and probably a lot of us are hearing that as well, you know, going from 40 to 50, but there's also some roads that are potentially the feedback of they're too slow. Like for instance, Thornton Road is 50 all the way down there. And then St Kilda Road is 60 all the way down there. They're saying make it 60 and 70. This is feedback, particularly I got last week from a group of residents, 100 odd residents I saw last week.
Thank you. And I did want to understand more about the election result, because one of the parties that's in power now, they said that they wanted to abolish this speed limit setting rule. Yeah. So if you've got, I thought, what's the point of us going ahead with this? Like, is it still going to be make a lot of sense? So if you've got a bit more detail about that, I'd appreciate that, Brian. And then I think Lou's got another question.
Very good. Yes, I suspect that, you know, might be a little bit of a moving feast for a while. It took, you know, from the previous government, when they said they were going to change the rule, it took 3 years for them from start to when the new rule came out. I mean, it is possible that the large part of the rule stays as it is and the new government might just tweak it a bit. I think some of the controversy has arisen around the country, particularly around speed limit changes on state highways. And that's been the most controversial, and perhaps the area where that whole impact of economic efficiency, which has been talked about, you know, really comes to the fore. Whereas on our local roads and urban streets and things, that's probably not going to be an issue, I don't think. So I think any work that we do now, between now and when we, you know, start to make any changes, will still be very good work, because we'll probably tend to be looking at those local roads and those low volume roads and things as a first step.
That's really helpful, Brian. Yeah, I appreciate those comments. Yeah. Now, Lou, you got another question?
Just to ask one question, as I say, I'm very much in support of it. The speed management plans, we would have input at a regional level to all of the, you know, reviews to that, as I understand, under this structure, rather than having it set at a regional level. Would that be correct?
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, so we, the plan is to go back to this committee with a draft plan for consideration, I guess, approval, before we formally take that to the regional council. That's the plan. Yeah. But there's a sub step before that. We just need to understand from the regional council some of the I guess the leadership and guidance about some of the detailed issues that there are in implementing a new plan.
Thank you. And I had another question about the schools' speed limits, because I see category 1 schools must have a permanent or variable speed of 30 kilometres an hour. So that's lower than we presently have. Are there any category 1 schools in Waipa? And have you got any concerns about it being reducing, you know, from 40 to 30? Like, would that maybe get a bit of pushback from the public?
So as the rules written at the moment, virtually every urban school would require a 30k speed limit.
Oh, okay.
So it's really, once you get into the countryside where a 30k speed limit's probably not practical, then it's considered that category 2 school. So again, I guess because many of our schools already have that lower 40k speed limit, there is a bit of time in the new rule in terms of when we have to make decisions about changing the speed limit. But there'll be, I guess, a lot of places where it's a no-brainer to make it 30. Like the new school being developed in the C2 growth cell, the road environment and speed tables and things have all been designed specifically for 30. So it will just naturally become 30 when it opens. But there's others perhaps where it's more difficult. Te Miru College, say. Schools on very busy main roads where it's not so easy to implement a 30. Ohaupo School by State Highway 3, and the Hinapuri School on State Highway 39. That's where there'll be, I guess, some more careful consideration will be needed as to what the options are.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it's good to understand that in a bit more detail. Thank you. All right, so no, Hinerangi.
Kia ora. I just wanted to make a comment on the mana whenua considerations. So ngai iwi tōpū are a good place to start, but they're not the only place to go to. So I just want to flag now that there's, for instance, a community marae in Cambridge that is run by Māori in the community who don't have a seat on ngai iwi tōpū, who I think need to have some say here, particularly around the speed limit just outside of Ngā Haue Marae. So what I'm saying is ngai iwi tōpū o Waipa is a good place to start, but it shouldn't be the only place that you go to for mana whenua feedback. Kia ora.
Kia ora, absolutely. I was thinking, yes, Ngāiwi Tupua might be a starting point, but probably some wider inquiries and consultation and information out to marae and kura and other places and say, well, look, here's the overall picture, and invite them to have their say and provide feedback.
Excellent. All right, so no more questions. So I've got a resolution to receive the report from Eric about the land transport rule setting of speed limits, agree to the process for a regional land speed management plan, and direct staff to prepare that information as well. I'm going to move. Thank you, Mike, and seconder Marcus. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Okay, it's carried. Thank you. Oh, yeah. And now our next item is the Cambridge Wastewater Treatment Plant Professional Services increase to approved contract sum. And we've got Renee. Is that Renee? Yes. Welcome. And you are speaking for Robin Walker. Welcome, Renee. And over to you for your item. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou. So yes, I'm here speaking on behalf of Robin, who is in Wellington. So I'm happy to take the report as read. So there's a recommendation here to increase the contract sum for the Cambridge Wastewater Treatment Plant by $500,000. And this is justification within the report as to the reasonings why, but happy to take questions from anybody if you have them.
Thank you. Any questions? No, it looks pretty straightforward, actually, Renee. Some of us were at the blessing for the wastewater treatment plant project, which was pretty impressive and yeah, very enjoyable. So do I have a mover and a seconder, please? I'm happy to move from the chair, actually. Yeah, and Phil, you're seconding. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Short and sweet. Thank you so much. Great. And now I have a resolution to exclude the public, which you'll have there in your papers. Phil's going to move and Andrew's going to second.